बहुत साल हो गए, सदी with guy. I met you in the last century, sir.
आप डॉक्टर पांडव, आप तो मंत्री लग रहे हैं, नए मंत्री.
Actually, they wanted to offer me this position. I refused.
Okay. बहुत ही अच्छा किया.
Hey, welcome to all of you. As you know, I am Amresh Tiwari. I am editor publisher of the Double Helical. This is a leading national health magazine and being published from Delhi NCR region. It's my privilege to welcome to all of you. Today we have the very mind-blowing topic and brainstorming. This is the SARS-CoV-19 lessons learned and the way forward. I really confident to Dr. Panda. He has suggested me for that topic and asked me to, I will arrange meeting with Dr. N.K. Ganguly because it's very difficult to call to Dr. N.K. Ganguly because he's a very busy man. And I'm really thankful to him for joining today. We have the lot of students like Dr. A.K. Agarwal. They are the stalwart and the biggest personality, the metropolitan, Dr. Ganguly, Dr. C.K. Chandrakant Pandau, Dr. Neelam Mohan, Dr. R.T. Goel, Dr. Sanjay Rai. So welcome to all of you. Now I hand over to Dr. A.K. Agarwal. He is the Professor of Excellence and Medical Advisor, Innovation, Clinical Research, Apollo Group Hospitals and ex-Additional Director General of Health, Government of India. Thanks.
Thank you, Tiwari ji, for organizing, as usual, wonderful activities and inviting the best brain of the country. उनको सुनने में, उनको जो वो मैसेज देते हैं, वो हम सब के लिए एक बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट मैसेज होता है. एंड आज भी जैसे आपने अरेंज किया है, एंड आज का जो टॉपिक है वो टॉपिक बहुत ही रेलेवेंट है. परहैप्स द एंटायर कंट्री इज लुकिंग टुवर्ड्स दिस टॉपिक. ईच एंड एवरी पर्सन ऑफ आवर कंट्री, forget about country, the entire world is looking towards this topic. Dr. Goel will agree with me that by the end of 2019 till today, whatever was the journey of COVID-19, and that COVID-19 has created havoc globally, it's pandemic, and it has affected each and every country, each and every society, practically each and every circle of friends or relations. And in the entire journey of COVID-19, we have experienced something which perhaps going to be useful, because we do not know the COVID-19 is there. It came as first wave, it came as second wave, and now we presume that we are end of the second wave, but we do not know. And will the third wave come? But all these things are presumed and scientifically also discussed. And in those entire journey from end of 19 to today, as well as in India, especially March 2020 till today, our experts who are in front of us have learned, they have gained a particular knowledge. I think to start with, I am requesting my senior colleague, the person who is very well known to the entire medical fraternity of our country, not only our country, in the entire globe, the person who has led Indian Council of Medical Research at Director General Health Services, and before that occupying the top faculty position of PGI and whatnot, and after his relinquishing the charge of ICMR, perhaps he is guiding each and every scientific institution of our country, especially in the field of medicine. And of course, he is also looking after the research wing of Apollo Group of Hospital. With this, it's my, of course, I'm lucky that I'm associated with Dr. Ganguly for last so many years, as well as uh, having the privilege of working with him at the Apollo platform. And he is the person who perhaps uh, captures the thought and the entire process of scientific knowledge. Dr. Sanjay Rai, once he told us, sir, it should be evidence-based, right? And
Yes, sir.
Dr. Ganguly is the mind of evidence-based. All the evidences, they are in his mind. So I'm going to invite Dr. N.K. Ganguly and request him that to start whatever is the brief experience of Dr. Ganguly in the journey of COVID. But ultimately, there is one very important topic, and that is vaccination. And vaccination is the one which perhaps we are looking towards as one of the very important steps to check. Third wave, individual satisfaction, and perhaps the process has started in India January onwards. So we would like to hear from you, Dr. Ganguly. What do you feel about?
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal and Professor Agarwal, and it's a pleasure always. I'm very comfortable with you. He comes from a medical college in which my Nana ji, my mama, Mausi, brother, sister, 5, 6 generations have studied. And the city to which I belong, that is Lucknow. And
Lucknow ki to baat hi apni hai, sir.
So it's a very nice rishta for a very long time. Elephants have two kind of teeth. One is the tusk, which is for showing, and there is another set of teeth which the elephant eats. So when we talk about vaccination to public, our main idea is to not erode the confidence on vaccination. But when I talk to the elite scientists who are sitting here, all of them are very elite, very knowledgeable, and know almost everything which I know. It is better to be totally honest and discuss with them certain issues which have come up, which come up constantly in this particular area from all around the world. And public health is a global issue. Pandemics are global issue, and viruses also are global. They travel along with the humans or animals from one part of the world to another through airlines, through ships, through many means, and they transfer the infection. So we just cannot depend on these, on just something which is affecting only us. If it is affecting Bangladesh, if it is affecting Pakistan, Afghanistan, or Malaysia, or Sri Lanka, where we have a very strong relationship and people come and go, then we will be eluding ourselves if we don't study what's happening there. Study them carefully, analyze, and come to some conclusions. So very rightly said that these viruses mutate, and these mutations in the COVID-19 initially was not of much problem, because it was thought that they mutate very slowly, not as fast as the influenza viruses, and they have a gene editing apparatus through which the mistakes which happen due to mutation are corrected. The mutations happen because of the few major issues. One of them is known as hazard index. Hazard index is that if a virus, if you stop the travel of the virus or you stop the interaction with the people around the infected people, whether outside the country to country or within the country, you will find that you have controlled that particular mutation which is happening. So the Wuhan virus's mutation was L-clade, and when they sealed up Wuhan, L-clade, which has traveled to Europe and America, it has traveled, but otherwise within China, the L-clade almost disappeared, and in the Southeast Asia, it mutated to S-clade, but Taiwan, South Korea, most of the Southeast Asian countries did strong public health measures, and they also controlled the S-clade. But when the Chinese traveled, or the other countries, nations, when they traveled to USA, 2 points in USA, one is California, West Coast, and the other was New York, East Coast, two favorite destination, and Europe, two or three favorite destinations, that is UK, Italy, Spain, etc. They changed. The virus changed, and the new clades which came up, the D, G, and others, and the major virus of interest was D614G. So in India, it came from G0 to GV to GR, and it mutated very much in other places. So there are 24 alphabet in the Roman and the Greek languages from alpha onwards. So as the mutations happened, and which stayed, all mutations do not stay. Many mutations happened, and those who know, in polio from 36, we had only 2 mutations staying. One was Moradabad and one was Muzaffarpur. And in the same way, in the HIV/AIDS, the various mutants disappeared, and few mutants ultimately settled. These mutations occur with the interaction of virus with the different population, different species, different in the populations, different immune status, nutrition status, the environmental factors, the drugs from the vaccine, and the other immunotherapies. They all put pressure on the viruses, and then they mutate. In these mutations, some of the mutants disappear and some of the mutants stay. So at this given moment, the 4 mutations which were of interest, that is 1.7, that was UK mutant, it stayed, and it traveled to the majority of the countries. 199 countries it traveled around the world, and it almost established itself. So this was the first one, and it was named alpha mutant. The second was 1.315, and this one was known as the beta mutant, and this particular mutant was from South Africa. It traveled to around 70, 80 countries, but it established mostly in the African continent. It didn't travel to. There are some special things, like in HIV, we learned that there was a C clade of India, there was a C clade of South Africa, and there was a C clade of China ultimately coming up. But India, B clade, etc. didn't come. Some reassortments came from the Myanmar-India border. So in the same way, some viruses, some mutants are establishing themselves into particular area. The same way, then there was a P1, which was a Brazilian mutant. It also established in South America mostly. It went to other places, but really didn't. But the main virus of concern became the Delta mutant, which was the B1.617. It has 3 submutations, and one of the mutations, which was 617.2, which became Delta plus. All these had a large number of mutations, about 16, 17 mutations. But Delta mutation was a little dangerous mutation. It traveled almost to every country around the world now, almost. And it has become a dominant strain in those countries. There are some very big peculiarities in this, like the COVID-19 actually entered through ACE2 as well as its furan area, which was exposed with the new peptidase, and it attached to beta integrin, and the two things, they facilitated its entry. And it actually created tremendous perturbation, because ACE2 receptor is found generally in large number of tissues. It is found in the blood vessels, it is found in the kidney, lung, heart, almost everywhere. And this particular perturbation causes multifunctional dimensions. But this mutant, this can link to lung cells, because in the body two cells can meet, but only in the cancer they overpower each other. Otherwise, there is a barrier which is known as fibronectin. Fibronectin doesn't allow, this is a barrier between two cells. It finishes that barrier, and thereby the viruses enter very in a big fashion. I will not go into cell signaling pathways in this, but there's a multiple cell signaling pathway which cause perturbation and which express itself in the form of various forms of the disease. I'm not talking on pathogenesis. My topic was vaccine. So vaccine relevance is this, that with increasingly we are seeing that vaccines are not working that efficiently with this particular mutant. And we have to think and find some solution. And within scientists, we need to talk appropriately and also advise government as a third force. As far as Dr. Sanjay Rai is concerned, he cannot advise government as a third force. Dr. Goel cannot do that. Dr. Pandav can do that. I can do that. And Dr. Agarwal, you can do that, because we are not holding any government position, nor we are eligible to get a government position anymore, and I have become at least too old to get any award anymore. Only maybe after I die, some award may come, but not while I'm living. So we should be very clear in telling that exactly what government should do. And I have found that between these discourses, whatever I was telling, after 15 days, 20 days or month, government did that. So it has an effect. Ultimately, they change the government also listens from the various courses and they change their thinking. So that should be our effort. So we should be very clear that vaccine is still the only way out, because we don't have any other things except vaccine, social distancing, barrier, and improving the environment around us. And vaccinate, at least in the measles, Dr. Fauci created a model. He said in the measles, you have to vaccinate 80%. And if the vaccine is almost like Ramban, very effective. So, but he said that in COVID-19, where though that kind of effective vaccines are not coming, we need to at least cover 85% of population. So this is how we move. While we are looking at vaccination, we find that any new virus where the population is not immune first affects the adults, because whom they mingle, they go out for work, and they are the first victims. But as the adults become immune, the children become the major target for any viruses. The children are always major target, and pregnant women, are very, very vulnerable, because whether it is influenza, hepatitis E, or take any infection during pregnancy, whether it is malaria, it affects the offspring, it affects the woman, and the mortality is very high. So essentially, when you are planning for vaccination, ultimately you will have to plan for an entire population. Although initially, when the vaccine availability is not there, you need to really create priority listing and move through priority, and as vaccines become available, you expand. So here I am looking at 2 or 3 data sets with the many hospitals with which I have conversations and all, or I chair their ethics committee or others. They're analyzing the data which they have where they have vaccinated. They find what others have found, that older people have poorer immune responses. They have also found that a percentage of the recipients don't develop good amount of antibody. There is a confusion on antibody levels. There are 2 different kinds of levels. One is measured by just titers, and these are sometimes in 1,000. And one is an NISCD geometric mean titer. In this, they are in digits. So if you have 12 or more, you are a better vaccinated. But if you have a 40 or 50 or 200, you are very nicely vaccinated. And then there are confusions that the neutralizing antibodies are measured by 2 methods, pseudovirus method and live virus method. There are actually 3 or 4 methods, but these 2 are. Pseudovirus levels are very, very high, and the neutralizing antibody level, GMTs, are not that high. So in the pseudovirus, you get 600, 700, 800. In GMT, you get 160, 150. And these are now available for various vaccines where you have international data. For any vaccines where you don't have international data, you really don't know much if they are only being tried within the nation. And others have, and in the nations, there are all kinds of, one of the things which we have not been able to handle the conflict of interest, like Dr. Sanjay Rai's organization is associated with one vaccine very closely. So if he talks about that vaccine, he has a conflict of interest. But people will listen to this, but they will like NIH developed Moderna vaccine. It never talked about Moderna vaccine. Dr. Fauci never associated himself with it. Looked at all the vaccines, the global data, and then they analyzed it. So essentially, when I will be analyzing it, I will be analyzing it on the vaccines which have been used globally, and when there is a live data. So first I will give you some live data for currently, and then I will give you few adverse events which are now being seen, and we should not brush them under the carpet. So let us see what is the global data about this. When we were looking at neutralizing antibody and when we were looking at plasma therapy, we found that there is a very, very different, diverse kind of responses from the population. And you could divide the population, one with almost minimal or no response, one with very good and high response, and some with a moderate response. And we had said that which is the low response, which is the moderate response, which is the high response. We have created those ranges also. So in that particular light, we had also seen that there are T cell responses, particularly the CD8 T cell response with granzyme and other responses which are also very, very important. Few cytokine responses which are important. However, one of the assays which actually shows the cell-mediated immunity is not being carried out by many labs. They are looking at T cell proliferation with the spike proteins or other proteins. They are available from a company known as JPT, where you have to give 2 months notice and they will provide it to you. And then you carry out these T cell assays through the anti-BRDU and BRDU method, in which you get specific transformation. But the assays are the tetramer assays. Very few are doing the tetramer assays within our scientific. So anyone who says that I have done cell-mate immune assays and they have responded and this memory is there, it doesn't mean that this memory is working. All of you who are Dr. Goel and who are looking at science now know the checkpoint inhibitors. Immune responses are through two different responses. One is the TCR response, which is known as primary response. The other one is through co-stimulators. So co-stimulators are actually prevented from functioning through molecules which resemble these co-stimulatory molecules. And in the cancer, this happens. This is known as immune evasion, and checkpoint inhibitors are used for treatment. So here, even though they may respond, they may not be enough to really prevent. So we are understanding the immune responses of this virus. But the two endpoints, they remain still very important. Although population in which you really measure will expand, one is that prevention of the disease. Second one is prevention of the serious disease and hospitalization. These were the endpoints which we understood and which could be measured very well. And most of the vaccines have been measured on these parameters. Now, vaccines, when we have seen these vaccines, we have seen that they have there are three kinds of vaccine at the moment. The messenger RNA vaccines, there are 3 or 4 in the market now. They actually are 95-98% effective. Then we have vaccines which are effective to about 70%, 78%. Some companies are saying that they have 80% of the efficacy. So these are then there are vaccines which have much lower efficacy, and these vaccines are not used that much internationally. Some vaccines have declared their SAEs, and one of the SAEs which is common with all the vaccines which have full spike protein and have adenovectors, these vaccines have those who have problem of thrombosis are using blood thinners and etc. They are causing problem, and these were seen in the AstraZeneca vaccine, Johnson & Johnson vaccine. In the Sputnik vaccine, there is a lot of opacity in the Sputnik vaccine. And so there is a label declaration in these. Now I know there are a lot of SAEs with these, and these SAEs need to be also seen. Coming to this situation, the data which came up, again, many of these data is coming from Israel. Israelis have done this very well. We have seen that the protection after first injection is not very good. There will be infections, and some of these infections may turn serious. Protection after the 2 injections is good in a sense that it will prevent you from dying and it may prevent you from hospital admission. However, there is a sizable number of people who have got infection and have to be admitted in the hospital, which has happened in many hospitals. These guys have got a very concentrated dose of infection. One of the things, Dr. Agarwal, you must have noticed that many of the doctors, particularly when they are surgeons, they are opening up a subject, or they are dentist or anesthetist, they get sometimes a huge dose of tuberculosis infection from an unknown source. And although many of us are immune from tuberculosis, they get actual tuberculosis while serving in the hospital. So many of the highly exposed persons, they got uh, infection even after 2 doses, and some of them who may have got a very heavy dose or where the immune system was down, they might have got admitted, but essentially more than 90% of the people will be protected if they get second vaccine. This is now established fact that don't claim that we have given at least one shot of vaccine. At least you should give the second dose. Now, second dose duration has created a lot of problem into people's mind. Most of the trials were carried out at a difference of 28 days. When the vaccine was in shortage, at that time, many side studies were carried out with a different days of interval. And these days of interval were sometimes 8 weeks, 12 weeks, or 4 months. So this data was available in shorter preparations. Many countries, they wanted to give at least one shot, and they said that delay the second shot so that we control the pandemic. So this was their idea of vaccinating, and countries according to their convenience they chose when they were give the second dose. Then there was another situation that if you have got a infection and are cured, when you should get a vaccination. This we knew that this will actually, we said that 3 months afterwards. Actually, there is not much data that when you should get, but we know that after infection, at least up to 3 months, you have good antibodies and you may be protected. However, those who are vulnerable and others, and when you have access to antibody test, there might be people in this group who do not have a good neutralizing antibodies, and they should get vaccination whenever it is appropriate if they are in a frontline situation. So the second dose is still something with which we are grappling, and we are taking decisions according to our own convenience. One of the most worrying data set which has come up now is this, that everywhere, wherever very large populations were vaccinated, the COVID-19 is coming back. People are putting up new restrictions, new lockdowns, which has happened even in a country like Israel, which has inoculated most of its population. It has happened now in United States, in Missouri and some of the other states where vaccination rates are low. This has happened in Italy. This has happened in Germany. This is happening all over the world. So if we have now some low grade of infection in our country in certain states, still we have states which have a sizable number of infection. And we know, those who are epidemiologists in the country, we know that there is a huge amount of migration between the states of the workers and others who are living on going to certain cities like Mumbai, Delhi, and other places. So when we say that we have won the battle, this will be an illusion. We are still within the battleground, and we are still battling with this, and we have to do certain additional things apart from vaccinating the population. One of the things which is happening at this given moment, that many people, when they get a milder infection, they don't get themselves tested, because if they test, this has actually affected the economy very badly of the people and the working class, even the other classes. The incomes have decreased. As you know, Dr. Agarwal, many of the private hospitals, not government hospitals, cut the salary of doctors to 30 to 40%, and they took work out of them completely. and the price indexes and everything has increased hugely, and people are grappling with this, so they just don't want themselves that they will be laid down and away from the work, so they don't get tested. So here we need to do something which has happened in the case of the AIDS. AIDS, government didn't stop the AIDS. People did it. Those who were blood donating, they voluntarily restricted themselves from blood donation if they were high risk. The high risk behavior was controlled by NGOs and others. And even when there was no anti-AIDS drugs and there is no vaccine there, this was more or less controlled. With the AIDS, you could live where previously you had to die. So this was done like this. So we have to really go to people and communicate with them. And now we have 3 or 4 very nice tests. Abbott has come out with a test, and that there are other tests which have come up, which can be done at your home by yourself, and you will get a results in 15 minutes, and you will know. Previously, the self-tests were little bit suspects, but this can be done. There is an odor test which Yale University did. Yale University also brought out another test which was very, very easy. And they said that they will distribute the knowledge widely to anyone who will take. So we have now 4 or 5 tests which can be done at the privacy of the home by the people. And Abbott's one has just now been released. So testing is a very important thing, and the epidemiology and the surveillance should be given to people like Dr. Pandav, like Dr. Sanjay, like NCDC guys, those who are good epidemiologists, those who have a good statistical power or data crunching power, and they could do modeling and they could do really design the surveillance. And there should be an apex body who should do surveillance and look at the geographical movement of the mutants and strains, do the modeling, and can predict that this is the place with the GIS and the GPS. Now you can even find out the concentration of houses where the infections are breaking out. So we have a very powerful tool. Chris Murray's institute does this and does the predictions with many factors. And the sequencing is there. We have a sequencing consortium, but sequencing is there with the research institutes. They have very little idea of surveillance, very little idea of epidemiology and public health. They are gathering sample from Max, Apollo, and all others. There is not much of the data behind that. There's not much of a thinking that they are surveillance sample, their community sample, urban, peri-urban sample. These are there. So they are not like Broad Institute data or Sanger Institute data or other data, where you can really find out something fast and then analyze and do the global prediction. So we should empower, we should give Novasic to Dr. Sanjay, Dr. Pandav, or people like that, and empower them to do surveillance and the research mode surveillance, or NCDC, whom I am not hearing much. They have the IDPS, and they were the integrated disease surveillance guys, the CDC of India. I'm not hearing much from them either. And we need to do a really good surveillance when we are putting in vaccines, so that we find escape mutants which find other things. So the lesson is this, that the countries which had vaccinated heavily, they are having a surge. And America did it at its peril. It came down as it has come down to us, and it was only plateau. It hadn't come at numbers where you can say that it has disappeared. So when we say that Delhi has a 0.1 infection rate now, if you test, you need to really ask experts, and you need to see the raw data. Raw data should be put in the for the people to really look and study the raw data. because raw data should be an open data. GISAID, we have not contributed much to GISAID. The world is learning from the GISAID repository and GISAID open data. When I was there, I was a member for establishing GISAID, but I banged my head in India. India didn't share much with the GISAID. So there are things which we need to do and put all the data on open things so that the people like Lalit Dandona, people like Prabhat Jha and others said that AIDS is plateauing. NACO didn't say this but NACO had put up the data in the open source. And when you put up the data on open source, many people start analyzing that. So this is something which is a need of day. Do ramp up more testing as you come down in the infection. You need much better test, much specific test, a huge community participation, huge NGO participation, and crunching of the data to know and plan and move and also plan the vaccination. So I will be very, very worried. India is not out of the thing. We, at least for 2 to 3 months, we should have a graded lockdown and be very, very careful. We should not go gaga with opening up everything indiscriminately. We also show we have vaccinated more than the American entire American population, but our population is 1.3 billion. Our current census is not available. We might be 1.4, 1.5 billion by now. We need to vaccinate them. We need to vaccinate our pregnant women. We need to vaccinate our children, those who are going to school and universities, and those who are at home. They also get infected and they also spread the infection, and the pattern is changing. Some of the children are having heavier infection. So at this given moment, we should be very, very careful that the vaccines, even the Pfizer is working only 60% against the mutant. And even then, even when you have given 2 injections. So the current data is very, very worrying from Israel that it has caused a surge even they have when they have got Pfizer's vaccine. The same thing with the monoclonal antibodies. The Regeneron and others are not working there. And when you are using monoclonal antibodies, particularly the cocktails, then you are a little safer. But if you are using single one, in India, 3 trials are going on with the single polyclonal antibodies. These are Fab2 fragments, some are Fab2 fragments, but these are made in horses, and these are so-called hyperimmune purified globulin. You can give it once. If you give twice, it will make antibodies between you. It may have a reaction, but it may trigger mutation. And there was for Eli Lilly and Regeneron, there was a particular window where you could use, like in the plasma therapy, there was a particular window where it became partially successful. So we have to be very, very careful, because in India, this window is not being followed. This is being used in serious patients and many patients. So there are things which we are doing which will be triggering more mutations. So in vaccine strategies, we have to take care of this also. We also now know that Sputnik doesn't work that well. I'm just telling you, please don't quote me anywhere, although I am being recorded. Russia has immunized most of its population. Russia is having the largest, most severe surge of all the nations who have immunized the almost entire of its population. So we are going gaga with Sputnik. Brazil stopped Sputnik immunization because they found that it works only up to 50% or less. So there are other countries who have experiences, and we should study those experiences and take care of that. So we might have more vaccines. We need to gather data from that, and we need to see what's happening. We need also to look at the vaccine SAEs. Few SAEs which I can explain to you. that some of the guys who have really those who had stent and those who are in blood thinning, and when they got it, they have a very severe one had got cardiac arrest, and then there are neurologic symptoms which are going in some way after infection, but after vaccination also. I'm a mentor of one of the big scientists. I'm not revealing. The person has Parkinson's. His Parkinson's aggravated fivefold. He was almost in the bed because of the vaccination. So vaccination is having some bizarre uh, SAEs in different people. We are not capturing those SAEs. We are claiming that we have an SAE capture mechanism. But how many of you who have got vaccinated have, through your cell phones, have given back that you had that you had an SAE which has been recorded appropriately? And pardon me, our vaccine companies, they need to gather live data, but very difficult to believe them, because some of them even threaten that if you say something, I will take you to court. These kinds of things were in the public knowledge. So I don't believe that they will reveal all the SAEs, and they will investigate all the deaths which have happened. There is a very sizable number of deaths which have happened after vaccination. And each of the deaths need to be very thoroughly investigated. And we need to create an SAE map. And looking at that, we should have a good communication strategy where we tell that this is what is happening. Another important thing is this, that COVID app has been a successful app. All these 300 something have got vaccinated with the COVID app. But there have been glitches. A person like me, I tried myself to register with the COVID app. I failed. So I went to my niece and I requested her to register me. So the niece who is very young, she could do it, but I could not do it, although I have a smartphone. I could get my driver, my cook, and his sister and driver's wife vaccinated, again by taking help of people. They couldn't get themselves registered in the COVID app. Then they were moving from one place to another. The distribution was a little bit irregular. Some of the government sources didn't have vaccine. Private sources had vaccine. So I paid for them to get vaccinated. They were lucky. So in India, there is about 600 to 800 population which they do not have digital knowledge. Many people have helped them to access vaccine and got it. We need to really find a solution that those who are not digitally savvy, they need to get by walking in. There is a rule that walking in is a good one, but then there are glitches which are creating a huge problem. I got myself got 2 doses of vaccine. I only got certificate for 1 dose. I didn't get a certificate for second dose. There was some glitch which happened. And another glitch has happened. One got both the doses and the person has not got the certificate. The guys who are entering this, they are also committing mistakes. So we need to find solution to all of these. I will end by saying that we are not out of wood. Vaccines are not working that well against the mutants. We need to give second shot. We need to vaccinate much more of our population before we feel even safe. But at this given moment, even after Pfizer's declaration that you will need a booster dose, Pfizer got the data, it has submitted the data, and it has said that you need a booster dose. It has also created a mutant thing, and it says that booster dose with the mutant. But in order not to create vaccine distrust in the United States, the Dr. Fauci, Dr. Biden, and others have stuck with it that still we cannot say that we need a booster at this given moment. We may need it. We should study the data. We do not know whether there should be another booster with a current mutant, that is the Delta strain. So for the population where there is a lot of vaccine hesitancy, 30% of Americans don't want to get vaccinated, they have taken this course. So government may take some course, but within the scientists, I have tried to discuss with you all my apprehensions and all my studies which I have done. We are not, we have vaccines, we have tools, we have other things. Our communication with the people who matter, whose rosy roti matters, who need to bread on their plate, need to be improved. They need to see us as their savior. They should not see us as their destroyer. Till it doesn't happen, we are not out of food. Thank you very much. It was a little longish what I said. I thought that I will give you some information about it.
Thank you,
thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr.
Gang.
Thank you.
I think you have given a very clear-cut message, not only to scientific forum, but to the public at large.
What I will request you, that let Dr. Sanjay and Dr. Pandav also analyze the data, because they also do it constantly. They may have another viewpoint, so let them also do it so that everyone has got.
I'm just going to request.
So I will stay with you as long as I can till
please,
my next engagement.
There may be some questions for you.
Yeah,
and
okay.
Thank you very much for addressing the gathering. And if we'll request you to stay as long it is comfortable.
Okay.
So after hearing Dr. Ganguly, we will, I think Dr. Sanjay Rai had to attend a meeting, so I'm requesting.
Sorry, I have to leave now. I was here till quarter to 6 only.
You still have 10 minutes. Please give your views, because I know you have your own views and you may not agree with all my views. So give 10 minutes.
No, sir. And definitely sometime later we will discuss privately also and publicly also. We can. Yes, sir.
You can just proceed for any number of minutes, whatever is comfortable to you.
Okay, sir. Thank you. For 5 minutes, I can speak. So very good
Sanjay
evening.
is our professor of Department of Community Medicine, AIMS, and very much like Dr. Ganguly confessed that Sanjay and Dr. Pandav are there into absolute research activity in the field of COVID. Sanjay, please.
So thank you, sir. Very good evening, all the panelists, dignitaries from media, ladies and gentlemen, all the panelists, and Dr. Agrawal, Dr. Pandav, Dr. Ganguly, Amrish Tiwari ji. Really, it's a great pleasure for me to share this special occasion with all of you. We all know this COVID pandemic started almost 1.5 years ago and spread to more than 200 countries within 3 months of its origin. This pandemic has demonstrated how vulnerable our society really is. The world has reported more than 18 crore cases and more than 4 million, that means almost 40 lakh deaths as on today. And almost it has hit all aspects of the life. Why we all are vulnerable. If you see this what is called Global Health Security Index published in 2019, the United States of America, USA, and the United Kingdom were the best prepared countries to deal with a biological threat, along with other countries of the European Union. And what happened during this COVID pandemic? They are one of the worst affected countries. And if you see, the India's rank was almost around 60 exactly. I don't recall this time, but India's rank was around 60 somewhere. So if you see the COVID control performance, almost all countries are at the same pace, or at the same level, we can say. And this COVID-19 pandemic is neither the first, and nor this is one is the last, going to be our last. The ongoing pandemic is a definitely public health emergency, and WHO declared almost a year ago this public health emergency, with a grave implication to the entire world. So I think it has taught us many lessons. But what you need a science and a public-based response that need to be communicated and very clearly at all the level, at the local level also, at national level, at global level. But the problem is still we have not learned any lesson. I can say we have not learned any lesson from the current pandemic. Still, we are in the same mood when this pandemic started 1.5 years ago from this one city of China. Dr. Ganguly has already covered many topics. I have only 2-3 minutes. My request to everyone is we should use this science. In last 1.5 years, we have generated a lot of evidences against this SARS coronavirus 2, evidences of COVID-19. So symptoms, natural course of the disease, role of the natural infection, role of the vaccine. So we have a lot of publications. We can debate at any time, but for any good public health response, we must use all the generated evidences. And now it's time to use the generated evidences. Any evidence, and if you talk about any evidence, even the testing strategy, we started with this contact tracing. Is it working, not working? You have to evaluate all this. I have already discussed all this in the meetings with central government, which strategy is working and which strategy is not working. So we can discuss all this. Thank you very much. This time I will finish here. I will stop here because of some another work, and I'm busy in another webinar. And actually, they fixed today's date based on my ability only. It's an international webinar. So thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sanjay, for giving your brief and very valuable input. And definitely, we will definitely try to seek another opportunity to be with you again, so that we can discuss more.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sanjay. And then next, I would like to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor of the only pharma university of our country, Dr. Professor Ramesh Goyal. He had been a researcher, he had been an inventor, and perhaps ever since he had joined as Vice Chancellor of DIPSRU, the Delhi Pharma University, this university has grown in all the field of academic as well as research. And Dr. Goyal, I know you are in the car. Are you comfortable to deliver your talk? Dr. Goyal, sir?
Dr. Goyal, sir?
Because I can see that Dr. Goyal is on road, and whenever you are on road, yes, Dr. Goyal, thank you. Please unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Goel Sahab,
Dr. Goel, we can't hear you. We can see your slide, but we can't
Sorry to
hear you.
interrupt. The slide has been shared from on the behalf of Dr. Goel from Double Helical. So,
Okay.
sir, may I request to call him later on? He is, I think, on the traffic. So later you may call to any other one, Dr. Pandav, and whatever.
Okay. In that case, Dr. Goel, once more I am requesting maybe that he is traveling and he is in the zone where perhaps there are no signals or least possible signals. So we'll get connected to Dr. Ramesh Goel later on. And now I will request our colleague, Dr. Pandav, a very eminent person in the field of community medicine, in the field of epidemiology, has spent his valuable and very important life in Department of Community Medicine, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. And perhaps he has been the part of each and every important committee as regard the public health is concerned. And a very excellent work in the field of iodine. Am I correct? And that's why he is looking after one of the organization who is perhaps giving the entire advice, not only to countries, globally in the field of iodine deficiency. Dr. Pandav, will you like to give your views about what the topic is that we have learned something and we want to apply that learning in futuristic manner?
Thank you very much, Dr. Arun Agarwal, my esteemed Bade Bhai Sahab, Hamare Bade Bhai Sahab. Dr. Ganguly, sir, special thanks to you for having kindly agreed to participate at a very short notice. So, आप तो सबके गुरु हैं, आपको धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूँ. Today is 11th July. Today is also the World Population Day. And before I proceed further, I want to express my gratitude to all the Corona warriors, the physicians, the nurses, the surgeons, the microbiologists, the pharmacologists, the sisters, the ward boys, the security staff, the nurses, ward attendants for riding into the valley of death. So I want to express my gratitude. 1st July is also the Doctor's Day, celebrated as the birthday of Dr. B.C. Roy. So thank you so much. I want to express my gratitude to our esteemed colleagues. Dr. Vinay Agarwal, I don't know whether is he there? Is he participating, Dr. Vinay Agarwal?
He will join later on. He is in the another.
Vinay will come later on.
अच्छा विनय हमारे बहुत पुराने साथी है
जी वो हम सब के साथी
वो उनकी वृत्ति भी बड़ी विनय है. He is also very humble, इसलिए सबको अच्छा लगता है विनय. अच्छा sir, Arun Agarwal sir, since you are the moderator, tell me how much time I have. I would like to stick to the time.
Please take your time, 15 minutes.
Thank you so much. You are very generous as always. A lot of my friends have joined. Amresh has also contacted my school friends. Suhas Khanke is there with us. He's joining us. A lot of my relatives are there. हमने अपनी तरफ से I must have sent message to at least 4,000 people. Amresh bhai sahab, 4,000 लोगों को हमने संदेश भेजा है. So I would like to, the topic is lessons learned and the way forward. I would like to start with a song, which I listen to it very often. वो गाना है
इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना, इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, मन का विश्वास कमजोर होना, हम चले नेक रास्ते पे हमसे भूल कर भी कोई भूल होना, इतनी शक्ति हमें देना दाता, विश्वास कमजोर होना, हम चले नेक रास्ते पे हमसे।
My school friend Suhas Khanke, he is a film actor. So he has a lot of influence on me. In fact, two of my films have got President's Gold Medal. हमने फिल्म दुनिया में बहुत काबिल है, हमारे बहुत सारे दोस्त हैं. Right from Satyajit Ray, Mrinal Sen, Shyam Benegal, Gulzar, good friends of mine. And
Dr. Pandav, the only comment I would like to give whenever we hear this song, our moral confidence increases 10 times.
Sir, हम community medicine में है, हम I know how to make my point. I do use different techniques. हम भाषण नहीं करते, संभाषण करते. दूसरा जो गाना मैं आपको सुनाना चाहता हूँ वो है दिलीप कुमार. We lost दिलीप कुमार, my favorite actor. तो उनका गाना सुन लीजिएगा आप.
शक नहीं है तेरी वफाओं को मानता हूँ, मगर तुझे किसकी आरज़ू है, मैं ये हकीकत भी जानता हूँ. ना आदमी का कोई भरोसा, ना दोस्ती का कोई ठिकाना, वफा का बदला है बेवफाई, गजब जमाना है ये जमाना, ना आदमी का कोई भरोसा.
Hello. Hello, can you see me now?
Yes. Dr. Pandav?
Yes. The pandemic.
Yes, sir.
Hello, can you see? Yes, sir. Hello. Am I audible?
Dr. Goel?
Am I audible, sir?
जी, आपकी आवाज आ रही है.
हाँ,
बीच
हाँ.
में आप डिस्कनेक्ट हो गए थे, तो
हाँ,
हमने
वो
डॉक्टर पांडव को इनवाइट कर लिया है, और जैसे ही वो खत्म करेंगे हम आपको रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Please.
Dr. Goel, I'll finish it very fast because I told Dr. Agarwal in the morning, I can finish my presentation in 3 seconds, 30 minutes, 30 hours, 300 days I can speak. मैं जल्दी खत्म करूँ. So Suhas Khanke, thank you so much for this influence of the film industry on my life. हम बहुत सारा संदेश गाने के माध्यम से देते हैं. तो दिलीप कुमार का गाना था आदमी फिल्म का, आदमी का कोई भरोसा नहीं. We experienced a lot of worst side of human beings, exploitation. Now coming to the main topic, Dr. Ganguly in his usual style gave a lot of subtle messages. He spoke about evidence-based medicine. But actually, sir, Dr. Ganguly, sir, what we are practicing is eminence-based medicine, not evidence-based. We are practicing eminence-based, not evidence-based. Number one. Number two, When I look at any successful public health programs, I take the learning from my neighboring country, Thailand. They call it as the triangle that moves the mountain. The triangle has three sides: the scientists, the society, and the statesmanship. Now, in this pandemic, last year, I gave my interview to CNBC on 4th of June, 2020. Now, when you come to the scientists, tell me who's advising the government? Dr. Ganguly, sir? Your cardiologists, your cardiothoracic surgeons, your gastroenterologists, your neonatologists. Where are the public health people? I don't see them anymore. After CNBC's interview, they stopped calling me because I was speaking the truth. Public health people, kahan dikhai dete, sir? I thought this is a public health problem, but this is a clinical management of pandemic of COVID-19. I repeat, this is not a public health management of COVID-19, sir. This is a clinical management. This is a pandemic of grave error of not choosing the right advisors to advise the government of India. This is a pandemic of grave error by the government and the authorities that seem to be taking place in terms of policy inputs. So you also made a repeated humble request through your speech, which I always find very stimulating and reflective, that my humble submission to the government of India, if you think that this is a pandemic, is a public health problem, please involve public health specialists in giving you policy inputs. That's my second suggestion. My third thing is the lessons learned and the way forward. I've become a philosopher after going through the pandemic. Dr. Ganguly, sir, like you, I used to travel for 200 days out of 365 days. Now, what this pandemic for the last 18 months, I've traveled very little. But I use this time for an inward journey of mine. So the take-home message from my presentation is only three. I got to know myself better. I learned that the best power, I started believing in myself. As Swami Vivekananda said, believe in yourself. The third thing I learned in this pandemic, that this world is a family. The world is a family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So these are the three important messages that I learned, and I continue to learn about that. Now, what is it that I learned and what is the way forward? First is family and friends come first. Families and friends. Second thing I realized that we do not really need much. Mahatma Gandhi said there is enough for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. I'm greatly influenced by three personalities in my life: Swami Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi, and Mother Teresa. I spent my schooling years in the National Model School, Aga Khan Palace, where I was studying with Suhas Khanke. So Gandhiji has a lot of influence on my life. In fact, my whole life is dedicated. Gandhiji used salt for freedom. I use iodized salt for freedom from brain damage. The third thing I learned is that there is no place like outdoors. Our movements have been restricted because of the pandemic. Reconnecting back to Mother Nature is the ultimate answer and solution. The fourth lesson is prevention is better than cure. Prevention is power. But unfortunately, the basic concept of preventive and social medicine has not been used. There are three types of prevention: primary prevention, secondary prevention, tertiary prevention. There are 5 types of intervention: health promotion, specific protection, early diagnosis and treatment, disability limitation, and rehabilitation. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, this is a pandemic of clinical management of COVID-19. I do not see any public health element at all. How much of money have we spent on health promotion? 5%, 2%, 8%? How much of money are we spending on the secondary prevention, early diagnosis and treatment? We talk of ventilators, we talk of oxygen concentrators, we talk of antiviral drugs, we talk of steroids. So this is a clinical management of pandemic of COVID-19. It is not a public health management. So I would urge the government, and Dr. Ganguly also mentioned it subtly in his usual style, that the government has to get the best experts into this. This is a race that has to be run on the ground, and the government has chosen to invite the fish. My esteemed colleagues are very good in their respective clinical disciplines. But with great humility, I want to say that their public health understanding is very limited. Very limited. So my request is two things. Please involve the public health experts. I would urge the new health minister, the Minister of State for Health, please involve the public health experts. The next thing is that kindly do the resource allocation as I've suggested. The Rajya Sabha television took my interview after the budget. We must allot at least 60% of resources for primary prevention, 30% for secondary, and 10% for tertiary. So the ratio has been always reversed. The health promotion gets very little and very limited resource. The next point is behavioral sciences, anthropology, sociology, psychology, political science, economics, philosophy, management experts, public health experts, epidemiologists, logistic experts are not at all involved in the management of pandemic, not at all, even today. Dr. Sanjay Rai, before he said that one thing that we have learned from the past is we have not learned anything. The next is, I also realize the important role played by the animals. Plants help humans breathe by providing us with oxygen. So reconnecting back to the mother nature is the ultimate answer and the solution. Hobbies are healing. I also discovered about my family, my wife, my daughter who is staying with me. We got to know each other better. We were chasing a shadow in a professional life. Most stuff doesn't deliver fulfillment. There's enough for our need, but not for our greed. In fact, most stuff leads to cluttering, not only of physical space, but also mind. The essential workers are heroes of Corona warriors. I'm grateful. I expressed it right at the beginning. I want to say my express my thanks to them. What we have gone through is we are confronted and experienced with true uncertainty of human existence and the true vulnerability of human life. And we are brought to face with more basic and fundamental questions. Who am I? Why was I born? What is the purpose of my life? What am I here for? What I've done with my life? What do I wish to do given the opportunity? Which is truly important in our lives? And what is that we truly cherish? So Dr. Agarwal, with this philosophical statement, take into consideration the time limitation, I would lay in by just one conclusion. The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful. It is to be honorable. It is to be compassionate. To have make some difference that you have lived and lived well. My school motto was service and sacrifice. When I came to All India Institute of Medical Sciences, I learned about science and society. Now I'm learning about science, society, and spirituality. So thank you very much, Amresh Tiwari, Dr. Agarwal, for this opportunity. We can talk later. I can take a lecture for 100 hours on this topic, 100 hours. But knowing the limitation of time, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Dr. Pandav.
Sorry
Thank
to
you very
interrupt,
much.
sir.
I think,
Sir, we have
yes.
today Mr. Sanjeev Arsale. He is a senior scientific officer, Department of Science and Technology. We welcome him and also invite to question from him.
Sure. Vasna Saab, you are most welcome. Let me finish these two presentations and then we will have some sort of interaction with you also, if it is comfortable. So, Dr. Pandav, thank you very much for adding science to the philosophical fact of the life. And these are the facts which cannot be denied. I fully agree with you. It had to be a fruitful life, right? You did mention, I'll take 1 or 2 minutes of your Mother Nature, and there is nothing like outdoor. Will you expand this in relation to COVID? What do you want to convey to the public?
What is the message that we get in the COVID management? Stay indoors, stay safe, and stay healthy. You're bound to spend your time indoors or outdoors. You be outdoors, take the usual precautions, wear double mask. And people use, I'm shocked, Dr. Agarwal, that people continue to use the word social distancing. It's not social distancing. I get very angry. It is some physical distance. In fact, the word social distancing is the most antisocial or social derogatory word. Dr. Agarwal, in the Indian context, it means you are untouchable. This word social distancing was blindly adopted from the Western anthropologist by the name Professor Hall. It is not social distancing. I'm ashamed. I get very angry when people use social. It's physical distance, sir. Keep 6 feet away. Third is wash your hands. And most important is build up your internal resilience. Vaccine is an important intervention. But if you get the new mutant, if you get the new vaccine, you'll again go for vaccine. That's what I'm saying. Build up your internal resilience, sir, to fight against not only virus, bacteria, protozoa, and fungal infection. Build up your internal resilience, which you're not focusing at all. That's why I meant that very little resources have been given for health promotion. I put that again very strongly, that this is the 20th pandemic in the human history. I fail to understand that why I have given this so much of importance. I have never seen this kind of response in any pandemics at all. I still say that this is a clinical management of pandemic of COVID-19. This is not a public health management, sir. And the government of India should take a serious note of what I'm saying. Serious note. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pandav. Now, I think Dr. Goyal is again connected to us. Dr. Goyal, can you hear us? Dr. Goyal? Dr. Goyal, can you unmute yourself?
Okay. Yes, sir. So,
yes,
may I
great.
request?
So nice to hear you. I have already introduced to you Dr. Goyal,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Honorable Vice Chancellor
So,
of our farmer university.
So, I will like to have my, sorry, it will be a little disturbing. I have come out also. Yes, okay. Okay, so I can start talking. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
So,
Dr. Goyal, you are clearly audible.
okay. Okay. So I will give the talk here itself. Now, see, it was nice to hear Dr. Ganguly. He has given a nice overview of the vaccination. And I remember him talking about the IgG, IgMs, and the antibodies at that time. And as he was mentioning that the voice to reach in the government, that is what is important. And anyway, I am going to go in a little different direction. I'm not going to speak on the I'm not going to speak on the vaccination. I'm not going to speak on the any other aspect. To me, COVID is one of the diseases and for which the treatment is required. And one has to think of the treatment first rather than anything else. And under these circumstances, the treatment, next slide. Can I have next slide, Tiwari ji? Okay. If I talk in the aspect of the first wave, in the beginning, nothing was known. Everything was a chaos. The problems were there. And the problem was then the rapid transmission. There was a chaos all over. And again, the pathophysiology was not known. So when we think of what was the treatment given, it was purely symptomatic. Why the symptoms are coming, how they are coming, that was also a problematic there. So what happened was that subsequently, the pathophysiology was to be understood. And when we started understanding the pathophysiology, the antivirals and immunoboosters, they were in the forefront. And again, for the researchers, the diagnostics, development of newer and newer diagnostics, development of the vaccine, that became the focal point, but not the medicines. This was a sort of the strategies all over we were mentioning. Now, in the meantime, the second wave came. Second wave means Himalayan number of cases, I will say, rigorous transmission, mortality. And then when we understood the pathophysiology, we were thinking only RDRF spike proteins. Dr. Ganguly I was hearing him a lot of time. He used to talk about the IgG and IgM. Nobody listened properly, and still it is a question. And the very target of this virus, that is ACE2, was least attended. This is what is my feeling as a pharmacologist. With respect to drugs, all emergency use authorization, introductions, withdrawal of the drug, even WHO, whatever drugs were withdrawn, most of the places it has put the strictures, rather I will say, doing anything else. Retractions of medicines, and then newer complications, including clotting, CNS disorder, and the latest being the black fungus. Under these circumstances, now it is very clear that it was detected that there is a limited role of antivirals, but still antivirals have been used as a blockbuster drugs, I can say. Overuse of medical devices. Every house started having oxygen device, which is not supposed to be there, and more dependent on tests and guidelines. They were, rather than attending and identifying the real problems, attention is all what WHO says or what particular authority says. As rightly pointed out Dr. Ganguly, that we should have gone, like how many are detecting that after vaccination, what have been the complications? These SAEs are reported or not, and how to tackle these variant. And in the light of variant, what should be the strategy? So with this background, I will not say much. What I have understood that yes, the problem is within the virus, if you see the structural part and the non-structural part. Remdesivir acts here. Now, remdesivir, what is the problem? Lies here itself. We have been working when it comes to antiviral drugs. Now, in remdesivir, we all know what has happened. All other drugs are still in the repurposed like that. Immunoboosters, lot of controversy with respect to steroids. It is going on. And again, symptomatically, yes, the patient with the D-dimer and all, we are going to give the antiplatelets, this is all going on. I am coming right from the day one when I started understanding this corona. I started working on the angiotensin converting enzyme 2, and that's what I'm going to present. We all know, many of you might have seen it, that the antivirals have limited role. It is very clear. But subsequently, all what is happening is because of the ACE2. One has to accept. Yes, if you go back in the history, in the 40s when it was discovered, it was only kidney. After that, hypertension. After that, cardiac. After that, it was the retinopathy. I think this corona has taught us it is beyond and beyond the what we are thinking in the 4 lines. And I don't know, worldwide, this renin-angiotensin system is not an old thing. It is a very clear thing. What all organs, whatever problems of corona are all because of this whole system. And ACE2, you can explain practically each and every point of COVID. COVID complications, COVID pathology, mortality, death, you speak and everything can be explained in that. I was trying to see with the so-called kadha, I did not find, honestly, I don't want to go into the detail because of the time. It was not affecting except little bit of tulsi and the cardamom, or sorry, this piper. When I talk of the immune boosters, I analyzed. What you see green, there is an evidence, but it was nothing solid evidence to say. And so last year, everybody was talking of immune boosters. You all know what is the status right now. Even Dr. Balram Bhargav, he and others, when they gave the lecture, they told that there are all claims, but none could be proved. But still one thing remains, which is from our university, that case fatality ratio is good. I mean, it was low in the countries who use traditional medicine. The uses versus case fatality ratio. We have shown this about 8 months back, but yes, the European, we listen to only Europe and US, what they say, antibodies, vaccine and all this, but our traditional wealth is not properly explored. This is what is mandatory. Well, my journey started with the identification of plants to all this. What I have tried to link each and every point. In the month of the March 2020, we went to Aravalli Hills Biodiversity. Dr. C.R. Babu guided us for the certain plants. We searched out certain plants. And in the simultaneously with Dr. Jasila, we have found with the first 200 deaths of the corona, we could tell what is happening. And with the renin-angiotensin, which still holds true today. I was invited to write an article. Our team worked for it, and it was not simple work. It was working on the real molecule ACE2. We could see the docking, and incidentally, only out of hundreds of phytoconstituent, out of 50 odd plants, we could see only few plants which have a docking score which is acceptable, that is about 8, and that was only with the few plants which I am mentioning, and I got it. And here comes one more evidence. When it was published by the New York that azithromycin is effective, out of curiosity, I did the ACE docking and it was 10. This speaks that yes, I don't know why whole world is after this RDRP, why they are not attending to this molecule ACE2. To my surprise, even today, I am finding very few around the world, only one company in Australia after this ACE, soluble ACE2. This is what is happening. Well, people laugh when we say that some herb can be antiviral directly on the virus. Here, in India, nobody was ready to do this testing for me. In the Kalu 3 cells, we did it in the University of Missouri, and we found a beautiful dose response curve with the formulation itself. And that is what is there. We had a 120 patients data clinical study with the CTRI recommended and everything. And we found that after day 5, 44% patient became negative, RT-PCR negative, and only 8% in the standard care arm. And it is a standalone. 7th, 94% and 100%. These are and all the treatment, every effect was very, very clear with it. Well, we have tried this reverse pharmacology in a different way. After understanding this ACE2, we have gone to formulation, and since ACE2 is involved in every place, brain or anything, we have started doing the studies on the post-COVID effects. And I want to share, of course, these studies are still on. It is going to be the drug of choice in the post-COVID complications also. Of course, we can find many other phytochemicals related to that, and we are sure that we will get the success there. To me, this is the real answer for the COVID. Mutants will come and going. Yes, if the mutant develop the other target, good, probably it will be easier. If it sticks to this ACE2, I think only answer is to find a suitable drug for ACE2. This is what is my feeling. Our university is working in different aspects, not only herbal. We are trying to have siRNA and RNA, and soon we are going to have the precision medicine, which will talk only of the genomics also. Well, this is the story of what we have the success. Our university gave the technical support. With the help of University of Missouri, we developed the formulation in the Chennai, and it is on the path. The hypothesis is very clear, concluding that spike protein, or what we call ACE2, is by viral. But subsequent to that, also it is ACE2, leading to all sorts of complications. And that is why our medicine has to work at every phase. Well, my thanks to my team who actively participated. I know there were few staff members, they were working more in that period. Now it is, of course, company, but things have come down, and I'm really thankful. I believe in to be different than the what whole world is going. With these things, I thank you all, and I come to the end of my talk. Thank you. I
Thank
hope
you.
sir, the slides were moving or not? They were not
Yes,
moving.
yes, absolutely.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramesh Goel, sir.
Yes,
And
sir.
I know you are moving, but you have given your description and in such a way that people at scientific program has understood certain important fundamentals. What is the role of ACE2, as well as the way you have talked about a formulation, perhaps, which will, I'm sure that the formulation you are talking about, it will definitely be, it is already on way to success, and perhaps in due course of time, this will be a very important remedial source to look after corona. And of course, I want to thank all your faculty. I have seen that many of your esteemed faculty from DIPSRO has joined. Thanks to them. And after we have heard Dr. Ramesh Goel, now I'm going to invite our friend, our colleague, Dr. Neelam Mohan. Dr. Neelam Mohan, you know that she is chairman of pediatrics in Vedanta Hospital, and she is in charge of gastroenterology, hepatology, and perhaps responsible for liver transplant program in pediatric age group. And what we want to hear from her, that at the topic of today is that where we are after learning, and the most sensitive age is pediatric age. Last time also I was trying to touch it emotionally, that whatever happened to us is a different thing, but nothing should happen to our children. That is the tendency of each and every parent, grandparents, and that is what we strongly feel. But even then, some of our pediatric age group children suffered to a limited extent. But the fear is that perhaps in third wave, will there be more involvement of children? And what is going to be the outcome of the experience, whatever we have gained? And what is the advice to the society? Dr. Neelam Mohan, can I request you to share with us?
Thank you so much, Arunji, for your kind introduction and the lovely wisdom that others have shared. Now, two things I wanted to say different from the previous one is, one thing is with the children, as you mentioned, still we do not have vaccine. So people are worried that without a vaccine for less than 18 years, how they will be at risk, and will they be more at risk because most of the people, adults, would have received the vaccine. So the answer to that is that there was a serological surveys which was not only done by WHO AIMS, and subsequently some small serological survey has been done in different states, whether it has been Delhi, Haryana, Mumbai, Bhubaneswar, Odisha, etc., Kerala. So overall, an average I can say is close to 50% seroprevalence is being seen positive in children too. In some places, it was as low as 35%. But if I take an average, it is so that means only half of children did get exposure, which was slightly higher in adults, and in adults it was 65% in those studies that I've been talking about. So children were just around there as compared to in the serological survey along with the adults. But there is very interesting a study which came in the last 2 weeks, which I want to share with you all. I think it was in NAJM, and I tweeted about it 2 days back. And that was, it has been shown that if, once you're vaccinated, then the chances of the virus getting into various mutants is less. So unvaccinated people predispose more to mutants also. So one, we know that with vaccination, the severity of the disease will reduce, less likely to get into ICU admissions and mortality. Third thing, now we are saying that even the variants. So if you ask me a question, why is COVID virus having a hold over us? Why, despite the whole world working? So there were 4 reasons for that. Number one reason was the virus itself. So the virus itself, the mutant it's giving, that was one of the major reasons. And I'll talk more about it. Second was the COVID inappropriate behavior. People have been not adequately using the mask, etc. Third have been the social mobility now. Social and not mobility is like we saw when the cases went down, most of the Indians started going to Himachal and the tourist, etc. increased. So that's called mobility. Similarly, the mobility increased towards, people have started going to USA, UK, etc., studies, jobs. So the mobility across, again, therefore, the 2 days back, the WHO expert, which they released all over the world, there is a resurgence and increase in the percentage of the cases. So for that, I said I blame the virus itself. Second, I blame the COVID appropriate behavior, which is distancing and mask. Third, I blame the social mobility. And fourth, we blame the inequitable distribution of vaccination and unavailability or inequitable distribution. So these, because of these 4 reasons, we are not able to, win over it. So what did you see in UK and USA? Despite them winning initially, they got the third waves and all, and they are blaming the Indians moving because it was the Delta variant. So yes, that was the reason, the social mobility, the Delta variant, and the Delta variant was more transmissible, gave rise to more severity of infection, and probably escaped the treatment. We know that the monoclonal antibody, etc., were not effective. Probably escaped the mutants, because we know that if I take the Pfizer vaccine, it was 66% efficacy against the Delta variant as compared to 95% against the initial Alpha and Beta. So they were less effective. So that's what. So now the world is talking about the Delta plus variant, and we're talking about the Lambda variant. So we're pretty worried when it comes to this. How will the third wave be in India? So the good news is that we are speeding up the vaccination, but the sad part is, if I compare last week, the vaccination drive was less than a week prior to that. So despite so many vaccines being poured up in the country, the acceptance of vaccine by people was not less. Some of the government experts have been blaming the private sector for it. They are saying that since the private sector has only a margin of 150, are they not very good? For example, in Medanta, we take a lot of initiative for vaccination, a dedicated floor, dedicated place, mediclinic, all that. But according to the government, people all over the country, that drive in the private sector is not so much, and they expect them to come over to improve the vaccination drive. And one important issue I wanted to talk is, again, a recent 3 days back, a paper which talked about that Pfizer, for the first time, it was they who came and said that the vaccine efficacy reduces after 6-7 weeks, because Israel. They showed, they danced. We all saw the video. The entire Israel was the first state in the first country in the world to have had 100% whatever vaccination, and they danced around without the mask, saying that they were COVID free. But then they got resurgence. So therefore, Pfizer accepted it that the vaccine efficacy reduces, and so maybe you need a booster dose. So that was a new first time paper into it. And the world's first booster dose study has started in UK, and it is called COVID Boost. And they are using 7 different type of vaccines, 10 to 12 weeks post the second dose, and they're not bothered what dose of vaccine you took, but they will try the 7 to see the booster dose, because we in India, the doctors who took in February, including me, and most of the experts who are doctors. So we took in February, March, and by the time the third wave are going to come, we are again at risk, because we probably need a booster dose. Probably we will not be so efficacious against the cases, which is, the Delta and the Delta Plus. So we've got to be worried about it. And the last one point I want to talk about. So I impressed on to you about the booster dose. I impressed upon to you about the study on the booster dose vaccine. I impressed upon to you that unvaccinated people were actually responsible for more mutants, and maybe vaccinated will reduce that. And I impressed upon you why, because of the mobility, the world, we are seeing more cases and more mutants, and we're pretty worried about it. So another new thing which happened in the last couple of weeks after the last meeting was Covaxin gave the third phase trial, which they hadn't released it. And we all know that we accepted the vaccine before that. And that gave efficacy of 66-70%. So that means 2 in 3 were protected and 1 in 3 were still not protected. So we still need those things, and the acceptance of people in vaccine is very poor. So my question to all of you is to go and say to rest all whom you meet. You ask a simple question: do you want to be protected? The person will say yes. And if the answer is yes, then vaccinate the people around you. If you vaccinate and convince the people around you, that's how you're going to be protected. Just by taking your own vaccine, you won't be protected. So that is what we need to impress. And last thing before I stop saying everything is about the schools. Sadly, 2 states, Haryana and Gujarat, in Haryana, from 16th July, they opened government and private schools. I've been told there are mixed thoughts. One thought, did they want all the fees, and was there a pressure by them on the state? I have no idea. But we need experts who are sitting in this forum. I'm not sure whether Ganguly and all there or not. Experts in this forum need to understand that this is not the time for opening of schools for children. Like Haryana did, they're opening from 16th for 9 to 12, and from 23rd for 6 to 8 classes. I think personally, this is absolutely wrong. We need to tide over this next September month in October, and only then think about opening the schools, even if the fees needs to be paid online, that people have to come out with ideas and experts have to put their foot down. I just voiced my heartfelt sorrow about it, because some doctors think that the children have an antibody. So what if they have an antibody, yet we don't know what is going to be the variants. And once you open the school, the message, especially the government schools, will go to the parents ki sab kuch theek hai, school bhi khul rahe hain, koi COVID appropriate behavior nahi karna hai. Do you expect in government school to keep a distance of 10 feet with children? It will, 6 feet, whatever you want to say. It will not happen, and they will goof up. the message will go wrong to parents and the cases will increase. This is not the time to do that. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Neelam, for giving your thoughts about a very important aspect of pediatric status. And lastly, you have touched upon the query which is in the mind of each and every parent and grandparents of our country about children education. And that is what one of the important messages of today's seminar. What is going to be the children education? It's a very valid point. There are instances, if I look into the literature, from global literature, there are countries who are school, they are trying to create biobubbles with lesser number of the children in the class, whether it is half or 1/3, with all the precautions they are taking, and perhaps at certain places their approach of opening classes. I always feel one thing, that's, well, safety first. Dr. Neelam, safety first. There is no compromise in that. But one thing is, as a pediatrician, you will agree that some of the children, Dr. Ganguly, please, you can also comment. Some of the children who were to go in prep school, KG school, and now for last 2 years, they haven't seen the school. I'm an ENT doctor, and I received 2-3 calls from my close families and friends that my child who's 2 years, 2.5 years, and the child is not able to speak. Why? Because the child is on the iPad, the parents are on their laptops, and everybody is working from home. So that means there has to be some sort of connect. Of course, online classes is a very important source of getting connected. But don't you think a physical presence with all the precautions, with the concept of biobubbles, taking them to school, building up their confidence in a smaller number, don't you think it can also be tried?
Dr. Agarwal, yes. I stayed back and I have to go now. I stayed back up to your entire conversation.
Thank you.
I will just quickly give my view in this very quickly. The development of the brain and saving the brain in Indian children and developing their cognitive faculty, particularly in the nutrition challenged, underweight, preterm babies, is an important part of the development. Even the mother's cuddling does this. So the children cognitive development is very strongly linked to their going to schools, because if they don't go to schools, there will be a trend. Secondly, many of the children get their only decent meal in the school, so they are not getting it in India. In other places, it was going to their home around the world, but in India, it is not going to their home. So they are deprived of this. So, but school going, you have to make a lot of investment if you open up schools. You have to immunize all the teachers. You have to invest in the PPEs. You have to sanitize. You have to look at the ventilation, and you have to create small classes. So you should have more teachers, and so that they are at distance. Many children can't wear mask. The children are very good spreader. Dr. Neelam said how many they were infected. They infect their teachers, they infect their parents, their grandparents. And they also, now we are seeing that some of the mutants are affecting children quite severely. And when the epidemiology shifts, the children will be the main target of this. Like any other, pneumonia is one of the major killer of the children below 5 years of age. So under these circumstances, the government will have to make a heavy investment into this. People have done it in Denmark, Belgium, and many other places. They have done it. But in India, tragedy is that many of the teachers have been laid out. They have lost their jobs they have not been paid their salaries. What to talk about opening up schools and others? So this has to be done, and an appropriate investment has to be made. So it was very good that I could stay and listen to all the talks. Neelam is a specialist in this. She will have much more to say. So I will take your leave now with all of you, with my sincere thanks to every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And we hope that soon we'll be meeting
there is a
again on this
question,
platform.
sir, there is a question from Dr. Ganguly for a second. A person from Dwarka, Mr. Dhananjay Srivastava, he is just asking, should we bother about third phase of COVID-19?
Third phase in your and my hand. It is in the hand of the community. As Neelamji said, that everyone is mad to go. And when you are under restriction and when you open it up, it is happening everywhere around the world. And surges are coming up because of that. When I used to be in Kanpur, my Tauji didn't allow us to go to movies. And so we ended up seeing Ram Bhakt Hanuman kind of movies. And then I went to my parents' house and there was a Khula Chhoot. I started seeing 14, 15, 16 movies in a month because I suddenly was released from the prison. So the human mind works in a different fashion. So after this, they are just, particularly the younger population, is just have gone bonkers. And the poorer populations, they have no way to really protect themselves. So they are going in the mandis, markets, everywhere. So we need to create more better job opportunities, better systems in which we can control this and get community participation enthusiastically, and also create opportunities from non-digitally savvy Indians to access to the best of the healthcare and vaccination. Vaccination we have speeded up, but we have to really look at ethics and equity in vaccination and vaccinate those who do not have. Me, you, and others will find a vaccine from wherever we can. But there are people who don't know and they have fear of vaccine, tremendous fear of vaccine. So we have to vaccinate them. If we are doing that, the third wave may or may not come, and we may have to give a booster. Then we may have to give a booster with mutant. Some good drugs are coming up, molnupiravir and others, which hit the virus. There are nasal shields which are coming up, which are in the market. They're very good. So there will be more things to stop it, provided we want to stop it. But what I am seeing that our participation with the government is not that strong. So we need to participate, and everyone. Dr. Panda was playing some songs. Actually, that is a very strong public health measure. I did it with once a Boston University music professor, Dr. Ande Quadros, and we worked in two places, in Gujarat and in Pondicherry. And this was one of the most effective weapons to make to improve the health of the communities. So community, if they walk with us, we may be able to, and we need to have strengthen our public health system. We do not have a public health cadre everywhere in India. We need to strengthen that, and we need to strengthen testing and surveillance. If we do that, there will be no third wave. But if we don't do that, it's happening in around the world around us. And we should not be very happy that Delhi has so many less cases when there are so many states and so many cities which have. Thank you.
Sir, one more is a little is everybody is thinking about the Lambda variant. Earlier it was Delta Plus. So what do you think?
So the Lambda variant at the moment, it has not spread that much. And there are 4 more variants which have been put in the list. That they are on the watch list. So that is why I said we should look at surveillance, but surveillance look at intelligently. surveillance married to public health modeling and forecasting and predicting using strong GPS and GIS methodologies. So, these variants will go on coming, and as time goes, but vaccine is still working. When my job was to create scientific analysis and evidence. So I provided that because this was a major reason for this meeting. But vaccines are still working. We may have a booster, we may have a mutant vaccine. These have already been made. So we need to really revamp our regulatory system in a way that it can respond in an internationally savvy fashion. We need to see some rules in which international vaccines are not able to enter in India. Some of them are very good vaccines. They have not been able to enter in India because the rest of the world has allowed them certain freedom of being used. So regulatory system is a very important part. Today, if there is a very good therapy anywhere, we want that therapy. We want that particular product for us at affordable prices. And this should be transparent. And we should not do any shortcut at this given moment. Public confidence will come down. So we should follow the global regulatory methods. And they have done it. They have vaccinated much before us. They have used drugs much before us. So we need to learn and do that. Thank you. So I will take your
I think you have given a very important message that it is regarding the question, will third wave come? Yes, third wave may or may not come, but it is not only the government, we are responsible for the origin of third wave. And in case we are together with the government and through us, scientists, the entire society through public health program, implementation of public health program, perhaps we will be able to convert tsunami into a wave. And if it is wave, it will become a very, very small wave.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. And most dangerous animals are scientists, because we have 50 different opinions and fight with each other. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, time is over now. Thanks to everybody. Thanks a lot for coming and joining the webinar.
Okay, thank you very much to all my panelists.
Could I have one question?
Yeah. Sir.
Yes.
Actually, this pandemic has different dimensions. And when we are talking about management, let me just talk about the medical management of it. My question is, India is fortunate in a way that we got the crisis at least 2 months after Europe and Iran got it, or later America or Brazil got it. So in fact, our doctors had some kind of data beforehand as compared to the doctors in Europe and America. So we could have prepared ourselves better. Of course, there are some other dimensions. Some speaker mentioned about the social dimensions, political dimensions, and other things. But I would like to see how much we are prepared now, realizing that Europe has already seen third wave, and as Dr. Neelam mentioned a little ago, that we are also going to invite them by allowing our citizens to go to popular places, popular touristic places. So crowding is happening, and third wave seems very close. So how we are prepared ourselves medically in terms of medical treatment?
Dr. Neelam?
Right. So his question is, what are we prepared for the third wave? Can I answer that?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So that's a good question. And I would like to say by saying, "Dudh ka jala, chhach ko phuk ke peena ja raha hai." So that is the attitude of the experts all over. So what did we do? One, the central government really gave a danda to all the state governments and did extremely regular meetings. And it always happens, when you have your bosses telling. So the state governments had a lot of meetings. So all the hospitals in the fraternity, for example, say Medanta, I work there in Haryana. So we get a mail from the health ministry, the state, that they wanted each and every hospital to give details about the facilities that are available for children for vaccination. Adults, they had already got an idea in the second wave. So everybody had to give what the beds are, the oxygen and all. 5 days back, there was again a meeting of the experts where Modi ji personally attended, and he wanted to discuss about all what is available in the country on oxygen. So that is big. So the task force that was created by the Supreme Court was nothing to do with the government. They just took, a couple of people's like Dr. Trayan Devi Shetty, etc. And they made a task force of them. That task force was working independent of ICMR and the other experts, the government experts, the Niti Aayog. So what did the Niti Aayog do? The Niti Aayog ensured that with the help of AIIMS and certain bodies, they immediately wanted to come out with general protocols of managing confusion, how to manage MISC, how to manage pregnancy, whole protocols we need. So it is very important to have a protocol. If you don't have a protocol, and me treating in Medanta should be same as somebody treating in a community health center in a district. So that is why the protocols were created by Niti Aayog. The administration started looking into the beds and everything, and you get these two. The medical bodies like the IMA and the IAP, they started forming forum of the experts where the teaching and training started. So IAP started training resuscitation and all. So from the administration and the medical fraternity, we are all geared up. Even if it is a junior resident to a senior consultant, all of us know what to do, how to manage, what not to do. Another very important news I want to share is when we thought about children, last time we said to you that only IVIG treatment is available, which comes in lakhs. It comes in lakhs of rupees, IVIG. You give 1 to 2 grams per kg, and just 10 gram is 10,000 rupees. So it's like really expensive. So a beautiful study 4 days back came from UK. It said that in MISC, which is a complication in children, giving IGIV plus steroids, or giving steroids alone, or giving IVIG alone had same efficacy. So in India, we don't have to now cry that, oh, I need to give IVIG to everybody. Government had to spend billions of rupees to give IVIG to the poor and rich so that there is no discrimination in treatment. Now we are saying that you don't need. So we got really lucky that the third wave happened in UK before us and in USA. We learned from the experience. We got smarter. We are geared up. We are talking to each. Where did we goof up? We goofed up only in one place, the public. They are the only ones who did not do anything. The teachers are doing an amazing job. Online education, you will see excellent training of the teachers and the jobs, the doctors, the administration, all of us are working. It is the public who failed. And that's where I said, you failed. You failed because you did not convince the people around you that they need to get, whether it was your chokidar or your Mali or your Mali's relative, it is your headache. Because there may be some relative of them. You need to work, you need to cover, you need to give incentive, you do whatever you want. You arrange the appointments. My servants, they didn't arrange appointments. I arrange appointments for them, their family people, their extended family people, their relatives, everybody. So that is what is your responsibility as a society.
Absolutely correct, Dr.
And not say that.
I think you are absolutely correct that it is the public who has to cooperate. Public from A to Z. And that is what has been mentioned by Dr. Pandav also, that public health program, the initiation, the sensitization remains utmost challenge in our country. But we are not talking of Delhi, we are talking of each and every state in the interior, the periphery, the education versus uneducated society. So that is why I fully agree, Dr. Pada, with you that the government has to be more careful regarding the public health approach. And that is what, through this platform, Tiwariji, we will like to definitely convey. I think we had a wonderful discussion. We want to convey our sincere thanks to Professor Ganguly, Professor Pandav, Professor Ramesh Goyal, Sanjay Rai ji, Neelam ji, Dr. Ramesh Goyal, and sorry, we missed Dr. Sunila because Dr. Sunila had to have some family commitment, so she sent a message. And I understand, Tiwari ji, do you think any one of our advisors like Dr. Vinay or Dr. Gyani are there?
They are involved in the committee meeting, so
Okay.
right now time now to wind up this meeting.
We will, the only thing, one message I would like to give, that amongst our audience, I see many of our faculty from different organizations, and I also see one young faculty from Dipsaru who belongs to physiotherapy, Dr. Sapna Dhiman. The only thing I would like to convey that it is not only the role of, and I know my physiotherapy colleagues are fully well equipped in post-COVID phase. The role of exercises, role of physiotherapy colleagues is very important. And here comes that, as I discussed with them, they are also fully equipped that they will definitely contribute towards the futuristic approach to COVID in their own expertise. Dr. Pandav, you wanted to say something?
I just want to make a polite request to my esteemed colleagues who are in the audience. There is Dr. Kulkarni and Dr. Suhas Khan. Would you like to say something? Suhas?
Dr. Kulkarni. Dr. Kulkarni.
Suhas?
Dr. Suhas. आप प्लीज अनम्यूट कर लीजिए अपने आप को.
I think we can't reach them.
Okay. So thank you very much to all my colleagues. Over to you, Dr. Tiwari ji.
Yeah, sir, Dr. Pandav, sir, do you like to say something?
I just want to say that please treat this as a public health problem, not a clinical problem. This is a pandemic management of clinical management of pandemic COVID-19, not a public health management, not a public health. Please involve the disciplines of epidemiology, public health specialists, behavioral scientists, management experts, logistic experts. Let the rabbits run on the ground and don't ask the fish to come and advise. Let the fish swim.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you, sir. Thank you,
Dr. Goyal. Any last word from you, Dr. Goyal?
Okay. Actually, I have already conveyed my feeling that
Yes.
what you have told, that it is not only physiotherapy, clinical, social, and the vaccination, of course. Every facet is important. There is no question in the pandemic. And ultimately, diseases are, of course, infectious diseases are won by vaccination, but the medicines are equally important. If penicillin was not discovered, infections would not have been controlled. So this is something like that. For artemisinin, that is the reason that China is now known. Why not even for this COVID? We may have to have a miracle done. So this is what is, we hope that India will come out, not me only, but India will come up with something. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ramesh Goyal. I think we have already overshot the time. Tiwari ji,
Yeah, Dr.
Coming
Saab,
back to you.
would you like to say something, Dr. Pandav? You are raising hand.
Actually, I just want to say, please do not use the word social distance. It's
I
most
fully agree.
social, antisocial word. Don't
Yes,
use
yes.
social distance.
It's a physical distance. Thank you. Thank you,
sir.
Tiwari.
Thank you to all of you, sir. Humble request to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.